So I want to tell you about Tom Ruggie. Tom Ruggie has built $1 billion business, assets under management, by focusing on a very unique niche. And he's going to come and talk to you about that. He's done this organically. He has a wealth management firm, he has a family office, he has an alternative investment fund, and he's got some lofty goals that he is on track to achieve, all because he is focused. And I really wanted to teach you how he's doing what he's doing. So please give a warm welcome to Tom Ruggie. Thank you. All right, so I enjoy our conversation so much, and now I want the audience to learn from you. All right. So you've experienced tremendous growth, largely by focusing on one specific niche, and I'd like you to tell us about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm a slow learner. I've been in the business for 32 years, and almost since year one, I heard about develop a niche, and my practice for many years was a general practice. But the primary niche that we're working on right now is actually the collectibles market. I have a pretty significant sports memorabilia collection myself, and it also probably makes sense to say this stems from, you mentioned the family office. So we set the family office up about 6-7 years ago. And when I did that, it was under the guide of, I'm getting older, I've got a successful practice. What do I want to do for the rest of my career? And I started prioritizing, what that was. And candidly, 10, 15, 20 years earlier, number one on the list would have been making money. And I think that was number 6 on the list. And what it really boils down to is you get to a certain point where you want to do what you want to do with who you want to do it with. And when I started looking at who I want to work with, I came to a pretty simple conclusion that I like people that are like me. I like people that are entrepreneurial. I like first generation wealth because I started from nothing, and I know the hard work that goes into it. And so this led to the development of the family office. But then what further process beyond that we've really been focusing on the past year is my passion for my collection. So, we do a lot of things around collectibles in general, not just sports collections, but exotic cars, artwork, wine, that sort of thing.
Now, when I hear you say all this, obviously it's like, okay, well, this is really interesting. Most advisors are not doing this. This comes from an interesting place. You're talking about something you're passionate about. How do you think this is relevant to other advisors who may not be passionate about that and finding what they're uniquely going to focus on?
Well, I think virtually everybody has something they're passionate about. One of my advisors that's actually here in the audience, he's big into long distance bike riding, so he's a member of the bike riding club, and does a lot of things about that. We have another advisor that is focusing on human longevity, which I think is a fascinating area in our business to focus on, because I think one of the things that us as advisors are really going to miss the boat on over the next 20 plus years is people living too long, and how does that impact their financial plans? I mean, if people, it's just being said, anybody being born today is going to live, everybody's going to live to 100 unless something happens. But if you're retiring at 60 years old, you might have to financially plan for being alive 60 more years. Yeah. So everybody has a niche, and everybody has something they're passionate about. It's just a matter of what is it, and the word exploit may be a bad word, but how do you exploit what you really want to be doing and with who?
Yeah. Well, that point is really relevant because we're talking about taking something that you're passionate about and actually making it a lead generation, a marketing opportunity. So let's dig into that. How do you do that? How do you go from I love collectibles to this is a huge marketing opportunity and I'm growing my business with it? What's your strategy?
Well, the first thing I did was I did some research to find out, there's a lot of people that collect sports memorabilia, but probably 99% of them would not be my target market. And so I did the research to figure out if I'm in a small niche pool, is there enough people in that pool for it makes sense for me to go after it. And the result was actually much more so than I thought, but an astounding yes. And so then what we've really done from a marketing standpoint is done things to try to generate content, done things to try to get ourselves out there. We sponsor like exotic car shows all in the Southeast. We're involved with Hagerty, which is the largest insurance company in the world for exotic cars. So that's what we've done on the car side. And then a lot of content generation on the sports side. At this point, and we've been doing this for about the last year, but at this point we're averaging about one article a month in various magazines, not just sports magazines, but keynote, Forbes. I'm doing podcasts for different sports shows. So you just start putting yourself out there, and I'm sure there's some other people that do what I do, but in a very short period of time, I've been able to make myself an expert, not only because I've got the wealth management background and the family office background, but having the interrelated memorabilia background completely sets me apart from anybody else that could be talking to these guys. And I'll give you a quick example. I got a referral to somebody that has a $500 million collection, which I can't. I've got a nice collection, but my collection is a drop in the bucket. But a $500 million collection, and there's people like that out there, and so
that's amazing. I have to say though, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, if I'm in the audience right now, I might be saying, well, yeah, but I can't advertise in Hagerty's and Forbes, and oh my goodness, that sounds really expensive. And yeah, I mean, you built it. You probably already had $500 million under management before you started this. I mean, I can't do this. So I mean, is this expensive? Is it hard? Is it really? Is there a glass ceiling for everybody else, or what would you say to that?
It's not that expensive. It's all relative. I mean, yes, we've got a bigger practice, so we've got a little deeper pockets. But I've got somebody that assists me. I still write the majority of the content, but my use of the English language is not strong enough where it should be published. So I have somebody that can go through and edit it and make it stronger. But it's not that difficult to do it, and it's also not very difficult to get it placed. It doesn't cost us any money to contact Forbes and say, hey, we've got this article, are you interested? It doesn't cost any money to contact Kiplinger's or anything like that. I reached out blindly to a Hall of Fame baseball player who agreed to do an interview for me about his personal collection, what he still owns, and we got that placed. So it's like everything else. You've got to be willing to put the work in and do the things that might be outside of your comfort zone to really have an impact. And you can do so within the confines of not spending too much money. I told you this yesterday when we were talking. I just got asked to be a co-producer in a documentary film about an artist that is the official artist for the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I mean, it's costing me $5,000 to do that. And to some people that might be a lot of money, but that's going to, again, just put me out in this huge sphere of collectors. And I'm getting credit for being a co-producer on this thing. I'll be literally involved in the making of the movie. And, it's cool shit to be able to do that.
It is. It absolutely is. I wonder though, you're putting yourself out there as an expert. You're on collectibles. You have a collection. You're doing these interviews. But how does that translate into business? So we were talking earlier about the performance comes when it's relevant to the audience, which clearly it is. You've got a specific audience. You're an expert yourself. But then it's not directly connected to financial planning and wealth management. So how do you go from collectibles expert to financial advisor to other collectors?
Well, a couple things. One is, I would say as a generality, and I'm kind of pulling this out of my ass, but as a generality, I would say that if somebody has a good collection, it's probably about 10% of their overall net worth. I don't think that's going to be the case on the $500 million collection, but
that sounds like a good estimate for that quick.
Yeah, if you got a $2 million art collection, you're probably worth $20 million, and so there's other things there that needs to be done, and our content generation really is based on the principle of what are you going to do with your collection? And I'm a perfect example. I've got a multi-million-dollar collection, And my kids don't give a damn about it. My wife doesn't. My wife would probably throw some of the stuff away to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I've looked at this from a standpoint of I'm a successful wealth management person, and yet I haven't done everything I need to do to properly secure my sports collection, to properly have a succession plan. I've got to be in a situation, which I am now, but I wasn't, where if I don't make it home from this trip, where does my family go to sell my assets? There's different auction houses. There's auction houses that specialize in artwork, which I have a lot of artwork. There's auction houses that specialize in autographed cards. So I've laid all that out, and being able to, if I was not in the business, for somebody to come to me and understand what my needs are on the collection side, but also have the expertise on my $10 million investment portfolio, that's a win-win situation.
Yeah. So the problems that you're solving for your own collection leads you to content that you put out to help other people with theirs. So how important do you think it is for someone to have an effective niche to actually already be an expert in that area?
I think it helps because I can't, I'm doing a podcast for somebody next week, and you cannot deny when they start talking to me that I really know what I'm talking about on the collectible side, and then that transfers over to the wealth management side. So again, I think it boils down to, if you really have a passion for something, even if you're not an expert, it's the passion that is going to exude when you're talking to other people. And I think that makes the difference.
Yeah, it does, and it comes through when you share. I do want to ask you some other questions about just your business growth and how you focus on that and how you set goals. But before we go off of the niche point here, I just want to ask if somebody's here and they don't have a niche, maybe they're just not sure where to get started, what advice would you give?
Sit down with somebody that they trust and respect, and having a mentor or a coach, I think is always a good direction to go. You can develop a niche within a specific practice. You might have a love for animals, so you could have a niche working in veterinarians. I know somebody that grew a huge firm working just with dentists all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to necessarily start with a passion for something. There might be an interlaced passion, again, with animals versus veterinarians. So, and it is something, we've got several advisors in our practice, and it's something that I'm really trying to preach to them. Yet it took me over 30 years to figure it out myself.
Yeah, and I know you do a lot of coaching along those lines. So you've become very successful. Obviously, the niche is part of it, but it's not the whole thing. It's your drive, it's your motivation. Tell us about how you think about your business, about growing it, and about setting goals that help drive you and your business forward.
Well, regarding the goals, we set big ass goals. We use, if anybody's familiar with traction or EOS, that's been a game changer for us because it's created tremendous accountability for what we're doing. But we set a 10-year goal 5 years ago to 10 times our business in 10 years, which effectively would have us at the end of 2027 being at $3.5 billion of AUM, somewhere around $40 million of revenue, and then the third component is I want to maintain at least a 25% profit margin. And until last year, we were on track. The market performance last year brought us down a little bit, but we're pretty close to being on track again because it's the compounding interest when you get towards those later years. It has a big impact. And so how we go about that, one of the things that I've really appreciated in this conference, I've heard it from a number of speakers, is you have to take risks. Now, I would modify that a little bit and say you need to take calculated risks, educated risks, but you can't be afraid to fail. And if I were to put a check sheet together of how many things I've failed versus how many things I've succeeded, I've probably failed more than I've succeeded. But I'm very good at learning from my failures, and I don't consider something a failure if you learn from it. And my biggest successes, when you look at any big success that I've had or the firm has had, the root of that is almost always from some failure in the past.
Yeah, it's a great mindset. I heard a lot of advisors, even talking at breakfast this morning, who they hear a lot of these things that need to be done. They have these ideas. They don't have a big team. And they can't do it all themselves. I know you're also a big delegator, and you get a lot of this done through other people. You mentioned traction, EOS. Software companies use EOS. It's not typical for advisors to do this. So as you scale a business, it may be hard, since you have such a big team now, to think back to the early days. But if you were a smaller team, back as a solo, or you only had a couple of employees at this point, like how would you think about building an organization to help you? Where would you put the priorities, and what type of people would you be looking for?
Well, I think I mentioned a mentor or a coach. I've been in coaching programs for years and years. There's a concept from my coach called the ceiling of complexity, and I'm sure there's a lot of advisors out here that hit that. Which you get to a certain point where you can only do so much more. You can only have so many clients. You can only operate, all the functions of a business. And I think the difference in the path of becoming a very successful advisor with a large practice versus not doing so, I think the path really boils down to, are you willing to invest in your business? And we've got a little M&A practice. We've had two firms merge with us in the past 2 years, and I've spoken to a lot of advisors over the course of the past several years. And it always amazes me how everybody, the most common phrase I get is, "Tom, I want to be just like you." And I'm like, well, you've got to make decisions a lot different than you're making decisions now, because you've got a lifestyle practice. You're making nice money, but you're bringing most of that in for yourself. And I have always reinvested back into the business. So we've built infrastructure, we've built technology, we've built other people coming on so that I can delegate. And a lot of people are willing to do that. So I think advisors need to make a choice of, do they want to invest in their business themselves and go from that sole practitioner, 3-person, 4-person office to laying the infrastructure to becoming a bigger office? Or do they want to connect with somebody else, another firm that can provide some of those services for them, so that it eliminates some of the things that they're doing that not only really shouldn't they be doing, but it's not the best use of their time, and it's probably not what they're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And another thing that we look at in our coaching program is, my goal is to spend 85% of my time doing only 3 things in business that I love to do. And that's why, at almost 55 years old, I can't imagine not being in this business. And the beauty is I don't have to work, and I don't say that to brag, but it's amazing when you don't have to work how much easier work becomes.
Yeah, amazing insights. I don't want to recap everything you said, but I mean, choosing a niche you're passionate about, taking risks, investing in your business, setting big goals, those are things that lead to success, and I really think you're a great example in that respect. So thank you, Tom. Very much.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
I think you also need to execute.
Okay. That's right. That's very true.
And I promise you, there's many advisors sitting out here right now that are taking copious notes. They've got a big ambition of all these things they're going to do when they get home, and then life happens. Mm-hmm. And one thing, I'm a good executor, but to get to where you want to be, you've got to be in a position to execute. And perhaps that means if you've got a laundry list of 30 things you're going to do, pick the top 3 and get them done.
No doubt. Is there anything else you'd like to have? That was good.
No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.